Let's change first pixels per unit from 100 to 16. 100 is going to be too large. I designed all of these sprites around 16 pixels per unit. Next, we're going to want to change our filter mode to point. And finally, we can change our max size to 64 and our compression to none. And this will make sure the pixel graphics actually shine through and they're not getting filtered or anything like that. And that's it for our sprites. Now we can continue setting up the rest of our scene. Unity by default provides us our sample scene here. I'm going to actually just rename this to Space Invaders and reload the scene. In the left here is our hierarchy where we can see all of the game objects that exist in. in this scene. And once again, by default, Unity provides us one game object, which is our camera. Since this already exists, this will be the first object we change. Really, all I want to change is the color to black. And I'm also going to change the size here from 5 to around 15. What that's going to do is effectively zoom out. So for example, let me just throw a sprite into our scene. You can see a little invader there. And at the size of 5, it's very large. It's too large for our entire scene. So by setting our camera to 15, we're effectively zooming out and it's giving us more space to work with. So let me go ahead and delete that invader. The other thing I want to do right now is actually just change our resolution for the game. So here in the drop down, we can go to, we can click the plus button to add a new one, and we can set a custom resolution. I'm just using a resolution of 1:1. So you could type in aspect ratio, you can say 1:1. I already have it created here, so I'll select that, and this will make it a square. I also can uncheck the low resolution aspect ratio here to make it fill the entire space. And that looks a lot better. Next, let's add our player to the scene. So we go to our sprites folder, we have our player sprite here, and I can drag this directly into the hierarchy for it to show up in our scene. This will automatically create a game object, add a sprite renderer component to that game object, and assign the correct sprite. From here, I want to change the color from white to green. Looks good, and let's move it towards the bottom of the screen. Let's say -13, looks good. There's a little bit of the space between the bottom edge and where the player is. I also want to add one more component to this object, which is going to be our box collider 2D here. The non-2D is intended for 3D games, so since this is a 2D game, we will choose box collider 2D. And I want to change one property, which is to set this to be a trigger. All of our objects in this entire game will be marked as trigger colliders to simplify our code later on. Also, you'll notice that the size is automatically set to fit this sprite exactly. If I change the size here, you can see the green outline, which indicates the area of this collider. And of course, as I mentioned, by default, it automatically sizes it to our sprite as long as you add your box collider after you have already added your sprite. So that's exactly what we want. We'll keep that how it is. Next, let's add our bunkers to our scene as well. So the process will look exactly the same as what we did for our player. So let's find our bunker sprite and let's drag that into our hierarchy. Let's change the color from white to green, the same green that our player is. And let's position this towards the bottom of the screen. Let's say -10 looks good. There's a little bit of space between the player and the bunker. Let's go ahead and add our box collider as well. Let's mark that as a trigger. As I mentioned, every object will be marked as a trigger. And you can see the size has been set automatically for us to match the size of our sprite. And that will be it for our bunker, but we actually need 4 of these. So let's go ahead and duplicate these. You can right click and select duplicate, and we have 4 of them, and let's position them now. So let's say there's maybe 6 units of space in between each one. So we can do -3 and then -9, and we'll do +3, and then we'll do +9 to space them out pretty evenly. And that looks good. There. There's our 4 bunkers. I'm just going to rename them so they all have the exact same name as bunker. And that's it. Next, let's add our mystery ship object to the scene. Scene. So just like the others, let's find our mystery ship sprite. Let's drag it into the hierarchy. Let's change the color to red for this one. And let's position it towards the top of the screen. Now I'll just make this pretty much the exact opposite of the player. The player was -13, so I'll make this one +13. Let's also add our box collider component. It's box collider 2D. Let's mark it as a trigger. And the size is already set for us. So that's all we need to do for our mystery ship. Finally, we want to create 2 invisible boundaries that will surround our scene. This will just be a simple game object with a box collider component. Let's go ahead and right click in our hierarchy, select create empty. Let's reset our transform here so all the values are at their defaults. And let's add our box collider 2D. Let's mark this as a trigger. I will call this boundary as well. Let's switch over to our scene view so we can actually see this. You can see right in the middle is our box collider. Let's scale.